Consider this your excuse to turn your anamorphic lens 90 degrees. Anamorphic lenses obviously squeeze the image, and so you de-squeeze it in post, but when you turn it 90 degrees, what it actually does is it squeezes it in a weird different way that's hard for my brain to understand, but it comes out looking like what you're seeing right now. This actual shot is being shot on the Blazar Remus 45mm T2. There are a couple things that you need to know if you're gonna shoot any anamorphic lens this way, and I think there's a couple of things that make this particular look unique when shooting with the Blazars. First things first, if you're gonna turn your lens 90 degrees, you need to know that all the characteristics of that lens are now going to be vertical. So any flares that you get from light sources or anything like that are going to come vertically. You can solve this by actually turning your camera 90 degrees instead. And while this is going to keep all of your lens characteristics the right way, horizontal, it's gonna bring up some ergonomic issues, especially if you're using a mirrorless body like I am. And that brings me to actually the camera I'm using right now, which is the Fuji XH2S. You can get a PL adapter for 150 bucks, and it seems to be pretty solid, at least in my experience, but I would still encourage you to use a lens support if you have a really big anamorphic lens. Luckily for me, these Blazars don't really need it because they are pretty small relative to other anamorphic lenses. Now, the benefit of using a Super 35 sensor like the XH2S has is that you're actually gonna get a slightly cleaner look out of these lenses because it's not actually able to embrace the full image circle of the lens. However, having shot these lenses also on a Sony FX3, that does give you the full picture of the lens, all the character that the lens is giving you. And as you can see in this shot right here, you're gonna get a ton of barrel distortion, just beautiful focus fall off. These lenses are everything that I've ever wanted in anamorphic lenses. I'm not just hyping them up, like they just hit all the boxes for me. But I've actually never shot anamorphics before this. I've only just watched tons of videos on them because to me, anamorphic lenses have always kind of been out of reach on the price scale. When I found out that these lenses come in at just a cool $1,000 a lens, which by no means is cheap, but is cheap compared to the grand scheme of anamorphic lenses as a whole, I was instantly drawn to these. Now, you should know, because I want to be honest with you, that I didn't purchase these, but technically, Blazar didn't send them to me either. I have a friend who got to test these out for Blazar, and through him testing them, they allowed him to send them to me for me to test them as well. Do with that what you will. But I'm definitely gonna be purchasing these lenses because they are a very cheap anamorphic lens that gives you a ton of character. I do want to address the elephant in the room, which is that there are cheaper anamorphic lenses out there, particularly from Sirui. And if we're just trying to get the cheapest anamorphics possible, then yes, you should go to Sirui's. I have seen through videos, I haven't actually used them, but I've seen that they're a relatively clean anamorphic look. If I'm gonna use an anamorphic lens, I want it to be wild. I want it to be dirty. I want it to have a ton of character. And that's why I gravitate towards these, but your use case may be different. Now, even though using these lenses on a full frame camera will give you more of the lens characteristics that exist, I don't feel that the characteristics just disappear when you're using a Super 35 sensor. Now, I know that technically I should be shooting these lenses like in the typical format, but there's something about shooting anamorphic lenses with this square format that I'm just really drawn to, and it's how I've shot these lenses almost every single time I've used them. Another benefit to actually shooting your anamorphic lenses, any anamorphic lenses, in a 90-degree rotation is that if you have a camera that doesn't shoot open gate, looking at you, Sony, then you'll actually get this aspect ratio, which is very similar to open gate. You know, if your camera's only able to shoot that 16:9 aspect ratio, suddenly you have a lens and the ability to get that open gate look for all of us out there that are having to cut things for social as well as 16:9 format. Now, Blazar does have a 65mm, a 45mm, and a 100mm version of these lenses, and I believe they just announced a new 30 or 35mm that just covers Super 35. life. So I think if you're looking for an affordable anamorphic lens set that's actually gonna give you characteristics of an anamorphic lens and not just be like a clean widescreen look, I think these might be the move. I mean, as a first experience with anamorphic lenses, I've been like so stoked using these. And that's the thing that, you know, you can't put your finger on when you're looking at something on a website. You know the feeling when you get a piece of gear that inspires you to make new work that you've never made before. And I think that that's what these lenses have done for me. That feeling of getting that new piece of gear that opens up a world of new visuals is what I feel using these lenses. And it's honestly been incredible. I've got lots more videos planned with these lenses. I've got a couple other ideas that are mulling around in my mind. Yeah, let me know in the comments if there's anything that you want me to highlight on these lenses or anything like that. And until next time, let's get out there and make better films. I would like the record to show that I actually recorded this whole talking head 2 times already, and I missed focus. So if this video is a little bit shorter than normal, I'm sorry, but I've said something similar to what I just said to you 3 times now. And yeah, so I don't know. But anyways,